Hey friends, how does your income tell the story about how you will likely become a public charge in the future? That's the question that I'm going to answer in this video. We're still talking about public charge because public charge is now in effect, and now more than ever you need to understand what this is really about. Stay tuned. Friends, thanks for watching this video. I'm Tonia McBean Pompey, and I'm an immigration lawyer in New York. Today I took out my whiteboard and my assistant said to me, "Oh, it's back." And it's back in this one, friends, because I need to explain some things to you in writing so that you can maybe get a better understanding of how the government will be looking at green card applications and even visa applications going forward. Now we're under public charge, right? It's not new to us. It's not new to you as well, right? Because you've been watching these videos and you know that I've been talking about public charge since 2018 when the government first introduced these massive policy changes. And so public charge is something that we now have to deal with, and we know exactly how to tackle it. And I want you to know how to tackle it as well. In this video, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to share a story about a woman named Tanya who is applying for a green card, right? Because she's eligible to apply through her U.S. citizen husband. And the question, friends, in this video is Tanya going to get her green card? Is she going to get approved? And in order to answer that question, I'm going to walk you through some things about her application and show you how the government will be looking at Tanya's application now that we're under public charge. Friends, as you may have heard me say in other videos, that in the past, which was just a few days ago before public charge became effective, the process was very simple in that the individual who's applying for a green card needed to demonstrate that he or she is eligible because of their family relationship, or perhaps it was an employer who petitioned for the individual, but it was all based on, relationships really, and then also on the strength of the affidavit of support sponsor. How did that person meet the income requirement, yes or no? And that's pretty much it, right? But now under public charge, friends, the analysis is based on a lot more than that. It's based on factors and what we call the totality of circumstances, right? And I've been breaking down those factors for you. We've talked about health, we've talked about household size, we've talked about age, and now we're tackling income. But to introduce income to you, I want to share in this video the story of how the government will be factoring in income in Tanya's case, and then we're going to dive deeper in other videos about the new public charge form, not the DS-5500, but we're going to go into the form I-944, which is the Declaration of Self-Sufficiency. Now let's take a look at Tanya. Just so you know, Tanya's illustration or her story comes from the government itself. The government a few days ago published a policy update to its policy guide, the USCIS policy manual, which is available online, and it presented several scenarios for us to understand how it will consider green card applications going forward under public charge. And so Tanya's case comes directly from the government's policy manual. So let's talk a little bit about Tanya. Is Tanya going to get her green card? That's the question. So what's Tanya's story? Well, Tanya is 29 years old. She's a 29-year-old woman applying for adjustment of status through her U.S. citizen husband. You might be thinking, good, she has a U.S. citizen spouse. What else is there to talk about? Hold on, there's a lot more to talk about. Well, she has her husband and 2 children. She does not have any medical condition, so she's in great health, which is great. But she does not have health insurance. Tanya has an 8th grade education. She only went as far as the 8th grade in school. She does not speak English. She has never worked, and she has no occupational skills, no work skills. Her spouse has put in the affidavit of support on her behalf, right? Because he's the petitioner and he must do that. So he did put in the I-864 for her. However, his income is not enough to support a family of 4 under the guidelines. And so she had to get a joint sponsor. Tanya has a joint sponsor, and that joint sponsor happens to be her husband's friend who lives in another state. The friend has never met Tanya, and his income is $27,000, friends, which is enough to sponsor her because the friend is single, he has no children, and so he's sponsoring Tanya. However, the friend has also sponsored 2 of his own family members as well. So this Tanya will make the 3rd affidavit of support that the friend is putting in, right, to the U.S. government. Tanya does not have any credit score or any credit history. She's never filed for bankruptcy, and she doesn't really have any debt, which is great, right? There's no indication that Tanya has ever used public benefits in the past, and she doesn't have any applications pending for benefits. So that's Tanya's story. Now, how is the government going to analyze that and determine whether to approve her green card or not? Well, remember we talked about the fact that the government will be weighing positive factors against negative factors about people to determine whether the positive outweigh the negative or the negative outweigh the positive. And so that's what's going to happen here. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at all the negative factors and then all the positive factors about Tanya. Let's start with the positive first. Well, she's between 18 and 62, and she can work. So her age is actually really a good thing here. Positive factor. She also has no medical condition, which is also a positive factor. Next, she's never received public benefits. Great. And then last, she does have an affidavit of support sponsor, her husband's friend. However, she did not choose the greatest joint sponsor, friends, because that friend has a low income. His income is only $27,000. Although it's enough to meet the standard, it's still low. She does not have any family relationship to this sponsor, and he's out of state. They've never even met each other. So the government looks at those things too when it considers the affidavit of support sponsor. Next, the sponsor has other obligations. Remember I mentioned that the sponsor is also sponsoring 2 other family members of his own, so that makes 3. So the sponsor didn't really help Tanya's case that much. It was enough to get her to pass the requirement to have a sponsor that meets the income threshold, but the government is looking at the weaknesses as well in that sponsor. Now let's talk about the negative factors in Tanya's case. First, Tanya has no skills, right? She has no education. Well, no education. She only went to the 8th grade, but that's not a good thing when you're 29 years old in America. You've got to go further than that under public charge. Next, Tanya can't speak English very well. English is now part of the test, and we're going to get to that in other videos, education and English. Next, Tanya has no assets. She doesn't own anything. She has no resources. She has no work history. She has no health insurance, which is a very, very, very bad thing for her. No work experience and no health insurance, 2 double whammies right there. These heavily weigh down her file. Heavily weighs it down, I should say. She hasn't shown that she's ineligible, friends, for public benefits. What do I mean by that? I mean that if she gets a green card, she will become eligible for certain public benefits. And so she hasn't submitted evidence to the government to prove otherwise. And so when you look at the negative factors against the positive factors, the government is going to conclude that Tanya is not eligible for the green card because she may go on public benefits in the future. And you might be saying to yourself, well, that makes sense, right? Because she's never really worked. She doesn't speak English very well. She doesn't have any skills, no education. So of course she's going to go on public benefits in the future. That might be a no-brainer to you. But under the old system, the way that we used to process, the government used to process green card applications, the government wasn't looking at all of these things with respect to Tanya. No, the government only cared about the I-864, the affidavit of support. I'm doing this video to show you the fact that the government is going to be looking at what they call the totality of the circumstances, so many different things regarding Tanya, to determine whether she's eligible for a green card or not. When Tanya fails this test, she did fail it, because in the government's policy manual, it concluded that Tanya is likely to become a public charge and she's ineligible for the green card, which means that Tanya may be presented with an opportunity to pay a public charge bond of a minimum of $8,100, friends, that would allow her to then get the green card. So I'm still piecing together information to understand how the government is going to really apply the bond. They do have instructions about the bond and a new bond form on the USCIS website. I'm still making my way through those forms, and as I learn the information, you know that I will definitely present it to you. But for now, Tanya is not eligible for the green card, despite the fact, friends, that she's married to a U.S. citizen spouse that no longer will get her over to the finish line to get the green card. It requires a whole lot more under public charge. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned for my other videos about income. We're going to go a little deeper into the Form I-944 to see what questions the government is asking people about their finances. It gets very intrusive. Friends, thanks so much for watching this video. Share it with other people and get on Smart Immigration Academy's wait list. The link is below. Get on the wait list because enrollment is going to open up very soon, and you don't want to miss all the good stuff we're going to be sharing about public charge in the Academy. Friends, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.